So, I mean, obviously the Zionist agenda is very clearly spelled out on their flag. It's one of only 2 flags in the world that has territorial ambitions encoded into it. The other one is Southern Ireland, by the way. But the Israeli flag, you have the Star of David, which is the Zionist symbol. It's not a symbol of Judaism. It's the Zionist symbol. And the 2 blue stripes above and below represent the 2 rivers, the Euphrates and the Nile. The determination of the Zionists to re-establish Greater Israel. But of course, there's a few other people who have something to say about that. But they wanted to keep that. I mean, this is a very interesting crop circle that actually appeared a few days before the Israelis launched their attack. And all the cluster bombs shown around there, quite prescient. So when Doug and Dave cut that one out, they obviously had the inside track on, what was going to go down. But I think these guys have also been sending out signals. So I think what they've been doing, and this is so arrogant, it's unbelievable, but I think what they've actually been doing is sending out signals as well to anybody out there watching, saying, we've decoded this, and if you think you're going to come here and end our sort of pretty comfortable life on this planet, you've got another thing coming. Because there's some interesting stuff here. I mean, not least the date on which the first nuclear explosion was set off, which adds up to 33. But when you actually take the epicenters of the 2 bombs that were dropped in Japan at the end of the Second World War, the first one being on Hiroshima and the second one being on Nagasaki. And when you bisect the line, guess what you come up with? 33.53 degrees. So what these guys were doing was sending out the signal, basically saying, this is the weaponry we've got. How arrogant can you get? I mean, it's completely outrageous. But, such is the way they think. And of course, what we see in the media is all the demonization again of Russia to create an excuse to put missiles all around the place and make this Earth, turn this Earth into a fortress, so that whoever it is that thinks they're going to come back here in 2012 and re-establish themselves or take somebody off or whatever, these guys want to give them a fight. But 2012, something is going to occur in 2012 that's very close to home. The London Olympics. So, what is going on here? Oh, that's good. What is going on here? Well, perhaps the clue, Seb Coe is a British Zionist. That's self-admitted. He is absolutely a British Zionist. And you remember when this logo that he had designed at the princely sum of £400,000 created such a big stink in the media? There was calls for the logo to be removed, withdrawn, replaced, causes epilepsy, gives me headaches, blah, blah, blah. Seb Coe said, this logo represents something we fundamentally believe in, and we will not be responding to any pressure to change it. Well, when I heard that, I thought, what the, that's the, it's a logo, but why get so emotional and defensive about it? The Olympics are going to cost this country £20 billion minimum. So if we have to spend another 400,000 on a logo, let's not get too defensive. But, there had to be something in that logo, And at first I thought, well, yeah, you can get 2012 out of it. But there was something that wasn't quite right because, I was left with that dot. You don't need that dot when you make 2012 out of that logo. And you know what? It was one of those amazing occasions when I think many, many people who were looking at this all came up with basically the same observation at roughly the same time. And there it is. This is Zion. 2012, the quest for the New Jerusalem. And what are they going to do? Because these guys, I think their strategy is they're either going to try and fight, or think they're going to fight, whoever it is that they think is going to come here and maybe take them off. Or their other strategy is going to be to say, what do you want to take us away from this primitive planet before. Everybody here is a fucking slave. They do whatever it is we tell them to do. They've got a pretty nice life. They live in sort of reasonable houses. We let them drive around in the cars. We let them take holidays. Actually, the terms and conditions of our slavery are not too bad. So why don't you just leave us alone? Or maybe there's an alternative here, but perhaps to get that alternative, we've actually got to get off our arses and do something about it. Because these guys want to establish the New Jerusalem, and I think that the very good possibility of the way in which they're going to do that is they're going to take from the report from Iron Mountain, where you remember they said, the most ambitious and unrealistic space project cannot of itself generate a believable external menace. It has been hotly argued that such a menace would offer the last, best hope of peace by uniting mankind against the danger of destruction by creatures from other planets or from outer space. Reagan made pretty much that same observation a number of times throughout his tenure. Most famous one being when he was at the UN in 1988. Again, you can download that and see the speech for yourself, where he talks about how he has this vision that mankind would immediately put all its differences to a side if there was a catastrophic or catalyzing event, like an alien invasion. But these guys are doing us a big favor. And in doing us that favor, it's perhaps, obscure that I'm going to take this piece of Tibetan wisdom, because I think this is very, very telling at this particular juncture, because it's very easy for us to be angry and aggressive and annoyed and frustrated that these guys have taken advantage of us for so long and we haven't seen through it. But the Tibetan wisdom says that the greatest contribution that anybody can make to the soul development of another is to be their enemy. And just think about that. Because when we're getting on with everybody and everything's tickety-boo and it's all wonderful, hey, we don't even have to think. I've got to tell you, when I came out of the oil industry, I spent a year playing golf. It was wonderful. Funnily enough, after a year, I was a little bit bored. And then, if that wasn't enough, in the year, not quite, in the 8 months before 9/11, I spent 8 months researching Mayan mythology and cosmology in Central America. And my research base was a hammock strung between 2 palm trees on the beach in Belize. But what did I learn out of that? I read a lot, but what did I learn? But now these guys are really giving us an opportunity, to do something different from that which we've considered the norm. And let me go back to the tarot card, because I think this tarot card that effectively reflects what happened on 9/11 gives us a real clue. And it's buried in the tarot card right down here in the right-hand corner. Let me see if I've got another slide we can look at that. There you go. It's the Kundalini. The tarot card is drawn when you're about to go through a process of metanoia, the word that was mistranslated in the King James Version of the Bible to repentance. It does not mean repentance. The only person anybody is ever going to have to answer to in terms of their life is themselves. You have no need to be subjugated to anyone or anything else. This is the indication on the card that when this card is drawn and your world is rocked, you have an opportunity to completely reevaluate everything you thought you knew. And this is built into our DNA. It's a process that generally occurs somewhere around about the age of 40. In fact, Rudolf Steiner actually made the observation that if actually this process starts before the age of 40, it's premature. Because it's important in the first 40 years to get a full grasp of what life in the physical, secular, imperial, material realm is all about. And then you have the opportunity to reconnect with your true self and determine, which way you want to go. But of course, these guys, everything about their agenda is to stop that reconnect from occurring. That's what the food junk is all about. That's what the medication is all about. That's why we have in the West, we've demonized the transpersonal process, and we call it the midlife crisis. In the indigenous peoples, they call it the midlife opportunity.